my pleasure. Uh,
Well done. You look fresh like
Good afternoon. Can I call everybody to order, please, so we can begin promptly? So good afternoon again, dear friends, and welcome to this closing session of the progress review of the Global Compact on Refugees. And I am pleased as a first point to welcome to the podium Mr. Vincenzo Mascioli, who is the State Secretary for Migration of Switzerland, representing the co-host. Mr. Mascioli, it is a great pleasure to have you with us this afternoon, and I take already this opportunity to thank Switzerland once again for really supporting so strongly and so effectively the organization and the running of this meeting. Thank you very much. Now, I have to almost immediately excuse myself and move to the panel area because we will have a conversation with, I will have a conversation with refugees as one of the final concluding act of this of this meeting. I want to, before I move there, to recall also for the sake of Mr. Mascioli, of the State Secretary, that the presence of refugees, of displaced people, of stateless people, people who have had or have lived experience of displacement has been a very important feature of the last 3 days. So it's very important that we have a final discussion with some of them and share the thought for all of you. So if you will excuse myself, I'll just move a couple of meters away to participate in this discussion.
Thank you so much, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. My name is Monica Malid, the advocate lead for TRSN, Tertiary Refugee Student Network, and it's my honor to invite you to this session today. And I'm also honored to invite to our panel the High Commissioner for Refugees, Mr. Filippo Grandi. We acknowledge and are happy for your continued leadership in reminding us of the meaningful participation of stateless people and refugees. And to my right is Ms. Cecil Pango, who is the founder of Women for Action and the co-lead for gender equality and protection on the protection from gender-based violence, multi-stakeholder pledge. And on my left is Krista, who is the president of Tertiary Refugee Student Network in Latin America and our communication leads at the global level for Tertiary Refugee Student Network. And to my father's right, my father's left, sorry, is Mejdi, who is the refugee advisor for German government representation to the Global Refugee Forum Progress Review. As we all know, the problems of refugees are becoming more protracted every year. we speak of inclusion of refugees, we make pledges, but the question always remains, how are we implementing the pledges that we make, and what is the progress we make every year when it comes to issues of refugees and inclusion of refugees. And this conversation is very important today because we need to know from the refugees and from the High Commissioner what has been the progress from the pledges that we make. And my question goes to all of you. The first question goes to all of you. And it is, looking back in your respective roles, how will you assess the progress made in advancing the meaningful participation of stateless persons and refugees at the global, regional, and local levels, and how has it led to improved solutions and outcomes for the displaced persons? I will start with you, the High Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for being here. This is an important conversation. And I would say, and forgive me if some of you have heard me say these things before, but first of all, meaningful participation of refugees. You know, today in my notes, I saw MRP. Please don't use this acronym. Meaningful participation is not an acronym. Really, that's a key point. We want to make this very real, not an acronym, right? That's very important. So I think that we have, of course, a long way to go, but and numbers do not tell the whole story. But I can't, you know, I'm not very good at statistics, but if I remember the first Global Refugee Forum 2019, I think we were about, what, 70 people, 70 people with lived experience, refugees, displaced, stateless, participating in the proceedings. And this time is, I don't know the final statistics, but it's more than 300 that were supposed to come. Maybe in the end, it's not exactly that, but it's about, let's say, 4 times more. So numbers, again, do not tell the whole story, but we have progressed. And in all, or maybe almost all the events that we had here, there was some participation. And I think this is important. This is important because it means that that voice is now there and can influence the debates and the discussion. This is the point I wanted to make. I think we need to go further than that, but I think it is a good trajectory. But, and forgive me if I raise a point that I think I even raised at the last Global Refugee Forum at the same meeting, remember, the meaningful participation means that it has to be at all levels, not just here, which is a great forum for discussion, for advocacy, for new ideas, so very important, but at all levels, all the way to where it matters most, in my opinion, which is at the field level. This is really where it matters. I visit all the time, I have visited all the time refugee situations, and it's very uneven. It's not even. In some places it happens, in some places it's a bit tokenistic. Yeah, let's have a refugee and ask him or her what we should do. And in some places it doesn't happen at all. And this is also sometimes our fault. You know, we, the organizations, are not doing this yet. I think it has improved a lot in the last few years, but it's not yet there. And the final point I want to make is about, like you, Mehdi, you are, Mehdi, right? Mehdi, you are part of the German delegation, and I know that some delegation, Canada and others, have a person with lived experience as part of it. I hope that this practice becomes broader. And sorry, I don't mean to be provocative here, but it would be great, you know, here in our UNHCR world, the refugee world, we have donor countries and host countries, right? Would be great that some refugees would be in host countries delegation as well. I said it the other night at the RC event, and I think it's very important because this is really where it is the most important at the field level, represented also in the host country. I know it's complicated, very political in some places. Let's call a spade, but I'm sure that there will be some host countries hopefully reflecting on it going forward.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. My name is Cecilia Dupongo, and I am a refugee. I live in Malawi. I would like to show how much this global forum has transformed things at the field level. Mr. High Commissioner, dear guests, before 2019, women-led organizations had no clear vision on what to do and how to act in order to help women in their refugee situations. But I was here in 2023 at the occasion of the Global Refugee Forum, and that's where I realized that women do have rights. We can do something, we can act, but we need to be diplomatic about the way that we negotiate these rights. When I went back to my country in Malawi, I brought back these demands, and I explained to women around me that we needed to actually negotiate. We needed to learn from people who know how to do this, and we needed to train in this matter. And that's how we got more information, we got trained so that we got ready to actually negotiate. And this is how, in Malawi, over 25 women-led organizations were fully funded. My organization was funded by the Innovation Fund, the UN Innovation Fund. We've started working together with women to empower them. And all of these women, they are the victims. They are the ones who should voice the importance of fighting gender violence. And women are now participating in these conversations because we've called them, we've invited them, and we've given them some space for this. Mr. High Commissioner, I'd like to let you know that in Malawi, women know their rights. Over 80% of women are informed of their rights. Men and boys who are the ones who commit crimes, they also are now aware of what gender-based violence means and how to protect women from these violences. I believe that the Global Refugee Forum is a great opportunity to share knowledge and information. And this is not only done by us or organizations, this is also your work, Mr. High Commissioner, your work for over 10 years. And thanks to this dedication, we get great results. Thank you very much.
Krista? Thank you. It is a pleasure for me to be here today representing the refugee community from Latin America. And out of respect for the community I'm representing, I will be speaking in my mother tongue. So please, I kindly invite you to put on the headphones again and connect to the translation. In Latin America, we have taken huge strides. We have opened up spaces and we have gained the legitimacy for the voices that we represent. I wanted to share with you 3 specific examples of my region. Firstly, I'd like to speak about a youth network which was built together with the refugees, statelessness persons, and displaced persons. With that space, we wanted to provide them with a secure space. We wanted to
allow them to use that platform to engage with institutions, with stakeholders, to gain impact. Carlos is a mechanism we have as well, which is present in all Latin America and the Caribbean. It's made up of 150 RLOs, and these RLOs share a lot of experience, and they are able to exchange that experience in one single space, this mechanism, which allows us to formulate real proposals and to have a true representation of all our region. And the third example I wanted to share with you is the example of tertiary refugee network. Which started off in Latin America 3 years ago. We are currently present in Ecuador and Colombia, and together we are working to gain influence in the field of education, as that is the approach we want to follow, to influence in the field of education, to open up channels of education for refugees. Only 7% of refugees in Latin America have been able to follow studies at a university level. But before this network, only 1% of refugees were able to do so. Cartagena Plus 40 is a declaration which gave voice to youth refugees and which served to reinforce protection for them. We celebrated the 40th anniversary of the Declaration of Cartagena a few months ago. For the first time, refugees sat at the table, were able to provide opinions, to provide solutions. We were part and parcel of that event. And precisely in the Declaration of Chile, or in virtue of the Declaration of Chile, we carried out regional consultations to include the voices of young refugees. We have give us more representation and to have a more structured representation in our region. Thank you.
مرحبا. Me to be sitting on this plenary next to you. I'll share some reflection from the experience. Last GRF, so many significant changes happened in this world, and these had immense impact on refugees, displaced people, the staff, and the system who was supporting them. I would like to beams of sunshine that made it through this cloudy environment. So by that, in GRF 2023, Germany made a pledge on increasing refugee participation. That was followed with a lot of preparations and led to the establishment of the Refugee Advisory Board in October 2024. A group, we started as a group of 6 members who have different expertise coming from different regional places in the world, who are based in Germany. We started directly after this establishment by getting an invitation from the German government to join them, part of the delegation in the XCOM 2024, as well in the preparation. So this is, I'm bringing some details because it's, as you said, it's not only about being there, it's about how much we are really involved in the preparation. So we got the invitation, we got involved in the preparation, and after that I came to Geneva in XCOM 2024 and participated in it. The good progress that we have experienced is that in the next year, the German government reached out to us, this time earlier, asking us to be preparing some inputs for the next XCOM as well for the GRF. So this is something that we have seen as a very positive development, because it showed that the first time it had led for some added value for us as well. And we gave feedback that would be like to involve more in the preparation, not only in being around, because I believe it's the value in Geneva is huge, but there is a lot of value happening between the XCOMs and between the GRFs, where most like of the important discussions happen. So since then, besides being involved in this kind of high level conferences, we have been as well via the Syrian developments that happened since the fall of the Assad regime. So we have been still going in conversations with the Ministry of Cooperation and International Collaboration and with the Foreign Federal Office. And this is something that we have reacted to. But at the same time, we have brought our topics and our priorities to the table. And by that, I mean, we brought the topic of humanitarian pathways from Afghanistan. We have brought the topic of third country nationals on the context of the Ukraine, of the war in Ukraine. So, and the mental health and psychosocial support needs of refugees in Germany. So it's like a two-ways collaboration as well. It's not something that we are sitting there waiting for the German government to reach us and asking for inputs or for comments. So we are actively reaching out. For us, we know this is like baby steps, and we know we're still on the first part of the path, but we are happy to see the direct effect that this inclusion is bringing and the indirect one. I think Mr. High Commissioner brought attention that this would have an effect on other countries, hopefully, that they would see how this refugee participation could look like and what kind of added value it brings to the table. We know that right now there is a huge ethical and funding challenges that's happening, but I just wanted to bring attention, like these things are not disencouraging us. It's on the contrary, it shows that our work is more needed now than before. So for me, like one last thing I would like to add, like I would like to encourage everyone to look at these beams of sunlight that made it through the clouds. We have heard a few of them yesterday in the Nansen Awards, and I think there are many of them that didn't make it yesterday to the Nansen Awards. So please, whenever you feel that there is, and like the pressure is so immense, try to search for these lights and think about them. Yeah, and thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your contributions. And to just make a few reflections from your contributions, what stands out is that the host countries, and not only the host countries, but the countries that we come from, have a role to play in issues of refugees. And in my last engagement with IGAD, I was telling my country people that if South Sudan is peaceful for other refugees from other countries, why is it not peaceful for South Sudanese? If it's peaceful for Sudan, why is it not for us? And that's the question to all the host countries and to the countries of origin that refugees come from. From Cecile, it's about equipment, equipping the refugees and organizations, women-led organization in how to deal with issues of refugees, and feedback to the communities that we represent as
share some insights from the experience that we've made in Germany and we're still developing. I think one of the most important thing that I would bring attention to is the institutionalization make meaningful refugee participation resilient to any political or funding changes. Otherwise, it's always going to be affected by what's going on, and it will make it optional or not always possible to happen. So I invite everyone to invest in finding mechanism to make refugee participation institutionalized. The other thing that I would like to bring attention to is to think about refugee participation as a long-term partnership. It's not something that you can build within few days or within few months, and it's not something that you want to have for a few months or few like for 1 year. It's something that goes over years, and especially if we're talking about building trust between governmental and non-governmental bodies, and in this case would be most of the time there is the refugee representative, and on the other side there is the governmental bodies. And I think, as you all know here, these kind of relationships need a lot of trust, need a lot of time to build a strong basis that will serve later as an establishment for this partnership. One more thing I would like to bring attention to, and I think you've mentioned it already in the beginning, which is about that it's great to see the participation happening in Geneva. And I think it's super important that participation is also happening on different places and in different formats. And by this, I mean in hosting countries, in countries of origin, on the transit, like participation could have different formats. And I think what we experience here is a great example, but it's still one of the different and several sorts of participation. There is one more thing I would like to speak about, which is think about participation as a way to answer many of the questions that we are having right now. All the talks we have about efficiency and effectiveness and localization and self-reliance. For me personally, I see like that part of the answer is always related to meaningful refugee participation. So it's something that I think would be logical to think about these two topics as a one. And I'll finish here because I'm seeing some looks at me. Thank you so much.
Ok, seré corta. Principalmente creo que lo que necesita.
Thank you. I think that what we need beyond participation is that participation be meaningful. It's not just about inviting refugees to a meeting and let them speak for 2 hours and then let them go back home and then not allow them to be part of the process. It's really about institutionalization, resources, and to have that shared responsibility be amongst all the actors. And that's the reason why we are suggesting, we're putting out there that we need, of course, financing. I know that the budget cuts have had affected a lot, but in our region, this is a huge impact because we are not in an armed conflict, and we understand, of course, that the impact is huge. In our region, we have one of the countries with the highest amount, or one of the highest amounts of refugees to the planet, and is the continent that has suffered the biggest cuts, financial cuts, and therefore we do need that support, a support that will allow us to monitor progress, to have statistics, to have the data, to be able to also propose and advance in our projects. We need that investment because without it, and although we have been able to progress with the budget cuts, at some point that's going to stop, or it will really slow down. And what we need is that money to help the refugees. We might even come to the point where that nationality no longer needs to be a refugee, but in the meantime, we need to be able to support those people to be able to have a meaningful impact on those communities. And Another thing is to make sure that doors do open to different spaces, to different mechanisms, that we open doors to NGOs, to work with governments, with agencies, to make sure that everybody works together to bring that support, and that the support is not coming only for one day, one event, 1 week, but that we truly have a good participation that has a real impact, that we don't just use it to speak nicely, to say nice words, no, so that we can really allow for that contribution. It's not just for this subject. The people who really will know how to solve things are the people who are going through those experiences. They are the ones who really want to find a solution. They are the ones who really want to contribute. And therefore, what we are doing is to calling upon everyone to come and join us, and not just as a region or a community, as the world, because the world needs that unification, needs that union for everybody. Thank you.
Ok, pour cette deuxième question,
Regarding this second question, we feel that for these 2 years before 2027, women need to come together we can't work separately in isolation. We have to join forces. We created a network, African Women Refugee Network, ARNET, that is aimed at bringing together all the organizations led by female refugees, women IDPs, and those who don't have a voice. So ARNET has worked for the last 2 years, and we will be giving a louder voice to those organizations that I've just mentioned. We're going to train them and strengthen their capacities, build their capacities so that they can take part in the discussions and be seated at the decision-making table. They need to be able to take part. With this network, we want to be present everywhere. We don't only want to be in contact with international organizations. We need to be in touch with banks, with all the entities of the private sector. We want to be everywhere, getting the funds, working hard on multi-stakeholder pledges, on the rights of the women. And this network exists and is there to carry the voices of all women. Even if you feel that they're not capable of doing so, we will be working. We will do everything that's needed for those voices to be heard. And before ending, the women sent me to see the commissioner to tell him that we have a small gift for him. He's worked really hard for 10 years, and we can't let him leave without our little gift. The women and Africa send you this gift. And we and they would like you to wear this symbol, similar to mine, so that we can stand up and support those who have funds. You're here. Those who have ideas, you're here. Those who have major programs for women, you're here too, because we need to help those women, refugees, IDPs, and migrants. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Qu'est-ce que je peux dire après?
Thank you so much. What can I say after the beautiful gift's been given me? I can only encourage you and all the women who work on this cause, whatever their role and at all levels. I'm delighted that
we've been able to help you, but I'm sure that more can be done and we can do more together.
To respond very briefly to your important question, a bit I already said, but I want to add a few things. First of all, I think we all agree on this panel and in general in this room, I'm sure, that meaningful participation means being, as Cecile just said, being at the table. That's the key issue. And being at the table means not only being in the nice discussions, but being as much as possible, it's very complex, to be part of the key decisions. And that's why I go back to my field point. You know, that's where the key decisions are made about where do you dig a well, or how much money you give to this organization or another. And these are complex decisions. When it comes to money in particular, it's sensitive, it's complex, but we need to get to that point. And that's why we at UNHCR are very keen to support refugee-led organization, women-led organization. But, you know, we need to do it with a lot of wisdom, if you wish. That means, in my opinion, that there's a few things that we all need to look into. And this is maybe an agenda for the future. One is the issue of representation. This, for me, has always been a key issue since I started working many decades ago. Who represents whom? You know, and I think it's important because, of course, we're not talking here about perfect democracies, but we need to make sure that those at the table represent a maximum number of people who will then benefit or use or, you know, will have the impact of those decisions. And that is not easy. I've been in many refugee situations. That's not easy in general in the world, but also in the sphere of displacement when population are moving, often very politicized. I think it would be good to reflect on representation. I'm sure a lot has already been thought through, but more of that. The second, and I said this the other day at the RC event, but let me say it again, language. You know, but I know that, and I'm listening to you and I'm very encouraged to hear that you're not speaking our language, meaning the bureaucratic language of the organizations, of the diplomacy. That has its own meaning and importance. I'm not dismissing it. But what, you know, if there is a discussion on self-reliance, we need to understand what it means, self-reliance for people. We need the person to stand up and say, for me, self-reliance is this, that, and that. And that's what you need to work. Concrete, practical, no acronym, no formulas. That's what we need to really evolve in that direction. And the third one, and it's a bit related to the others, and my concluding point is, you know, the first day on, before the first day on Sunday, I went to the session, so-called training session for those with lived experience that participated here. And I said, you have a difficult task, maybe like all of us, but you in particular, because you have, on the one hand, you have to be politically savvy. These meetings are very political. So you have to be aware of the politics and be smart in the way you navigate through that. But then you have to be very direct, and in a way, I'm asking you, be diplomatic and also not be diplomatic. You have to be both. You know, the faith-based organizations, especially the Christian ones, will recognize this, but there is, many of you will know that there is biblical advice, which I often quote, that you have to be as wise as doves, like the peace birds, and as smart as snakes. You have to be both a dove and a snake in order to be effective. And I think that you representing displaced communities, stateless communities, really, you are, I know many of you, you are, but use that double approach because you will need both to be effective in pursuing, in furthering this such important issue as meaningful participation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And before I go to my last question, which will just be one sentence to wrap up your contribution to this panel, is that advocacy for all the refugees or representative of refugees is very expensive, because you have seen me sitting next to the High Commissioner, and when I go back to the refugee camp, to where I come from, they know that I have a direct access to him. So that if there's a problem happening, I can just take my phone and call him. Yes. And in the next 2 days, 10 days is a lot. I'll find a solution to all our problems. And that's why, apart from the representation we make here, we also have to look at feedback. How do we tell the people we represent? And that has to come with facilitation, because as Monica coming from Kenya as a refugee and other refugees here, we might be less than 10. But how do we get feedback to people we represent the same way to all the refugees here today? And it has to go beyond participation. It has to be facilitating me to give them feedback, like I've been saying. So my last question to all of you today in one sentence will be, in one sentence only, what can you personally pledge to do over the next 2 years leading to the Global Refugee Forum in 2027? And for me, it will be peace. Being an ambassador for peace, because peace is the first solution to displacement. And now to you, Ms. Cecile, what is this one sentence that you will say?
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. I have one sentence. Let us stand up, support refugee women, support organizations created by women refugees if we want gender-based violence to end. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your question's a little bit difficult because you said in the next 2 years, and I'm stepping down in 10 days, but I can make a pledge. I can make a pledge that in spite of stepping down, I'll continue to be a voice for you.
Thank you so much. And that that brings about the emphasis of our role in not only being in positions, but being advocates in individually, not you being the High Commissioner. Thank you.
Okay, yo me comprometo.
Well, I commit to be persistent despite all obstacles, despite budget cuts, despite any problem. We need to be persistent, because being persistent means we can reach our goals.
Thank you for the question. For me, my pledge is built on an experience that I built on my personal and my work experience, which had brought me to learn what it means to lose control over one's life. So my pledge is keep supporting refugees, displaced and stateless people in regaining autonomy and gaining their self-reliance. This is what I'll be working on for the next 2 years, and I'll be happy to reflect on it on the next GRF. Thank you so much.
And thank you so much. And our call out, since you don't have the chance to contribute to this panel as the audience, we are calling you out to further the conversation as you go back to your respective countries and your respective homes. The peace begins with you, and every other change that we want to see is an individual choice. Thank you so much, and have a good evening.
Thank you to our panel for your work. I'm back in this chair now. And 1 second. The next session, before we go to the actual closing, is a very important one. We will hear from a number of important partners that will offer some closing reflections. And the partners come from what in the compact is called the whole of society, from different stakeholders that have all contributed very effectively to the discussions of the last 3 days. So I will call on the speakers one by one and invite them to go to the podium and deliver remarks. We are a little bit tight of time. If I could ask all of you to respect the 5 minutes maximum time, it would be very much appreciated. And let me start with sport. That has been such an important theme here and before, and ask my good friend Thomas Bach, Honorary President of the International Olympic Committee and Chair of the Olympic Refuge Foundation, to take the floor. Thomas, you have the floor.
Mr. High Commissioner, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, over the last couple of days, we have heard about the progress made since the last Global Refugee Forum. We have looked at the challenges that lie ahead. We have built partnerships to support millions forced to flee their homes. We have renewed our shared commitment to strengthen the role of sport in the protection and inclusion of refugees and displaced people. In this spirit, allow me at this very special moment to look back on a very special partnership that has flourished over the past decade. The partnership between UNHCR and the world of sport. This partnership has demonstrated the power of sport to bring hope, dignity, and belonging to our fellow human beings. It was 10 years ago, at the end of 2015, when I announced at the United Nations General Assembly the intention of the IOC to create a refugee Olympic team. What I did not anticipate at the time was the scope and practical implications that this decision would have. Soon I realized that without the support of UNHCR, it could be too ambitious to turn this project into reality. Therefore, as soon as Filippo Grandi was confirmed as the new High Commissioner in early 2016, I reached out to him, being pretty nervous because I did not know him and was afraid that he would call me off with this crazy idea. But the more so, I was then heartened afterwards by his immediate and enthusiastic support. And thanks to his support, 10 refugee athletes from Ethiopia, South Sudan, Syria, and the Democratic Republic of Congo competed at the Olympic Games Rio 2016 as the first ever Olympic refugee team. Having no national team to belong to, no flag to march behind, no anthem to be played, and no home to call their own, we welcomed them with the Olympic flag and the Olympic anthem. We gave them a home in the Olympic Village. Our message was clear. You are our fellow human beings, and you are an enrichment to our Olympic community. This moment, which touched so many hearts over all the world, showed us that the Olympic values of peace, respect, and solidarity bring hope to millions of refugees around the world. Building on this success, we wanted to go further, supporting not just a few athletes, but the many young people affected by displacement everywhere. This is why in 2017 we created the Olympic Refuge Foundation to deepen and expand the support of the Olympic movement for refugees through sport, and again in close cooperation with UNHCR and my friend Filippo Grandi as our vice chair. Since then, more than 925,000 young people affected by displacement have gained access to safe sport through the support or contribution of the foundation, strengthening mental health, fostering inclusion, and building brighter futures. Dear Filippo, from the very beginning, you have been a driving force behind this journey. Your personal conviction that sport can be a tool of protection and empowerment has inspired us all. As you conclude your tenure as High Commissioner, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to you for your courage, for your friendship, and for your humanity. Grazie mille, Filippo. Today, we are also looking forward to continuing this strong cooperation with your successor as High Commissioner. Guided by our vision of a society where everyone belongs through sport, and in answer to the question what our pledge will be for the next 2 years until the next forum, we will widen our focus. We will strengthen our support for refugees around the world, and we will, on top of all the actions which we have started since 2017, take on new perspectives. And one example for this is the new partnership between our Olympic Refuge Foundation and the Mayors Migration Council. As announced earlier this and opportunity for displaced and host populations. We will do so in cities, connecting young people and to give them the opportunity to gain confidence and build a better future together with the host population. This same spirit of partnership drives our work with the Sport for Refugees Coalition, launched together with the UNHCR at the Global Refugee Forum in 2019. Today, this coalition consists of 170 members across governments, sport, civil society, and the private sector, all united by one conviction. Sport is not just nice to have. Sport is a necessity. In our joint statement, having been introduced at the start of this forum by Masuma Alisade, member of IOC Refugee Olympic team, and at the last Games in Paris, the chef de mission. And this is what we have heard there, just in the panel, how important it is that the refugees have a voice, and do not only have a voice, but have a seat at the table where decisions are made. So she was the chef de mission. She was the head of this refugee Olympic team for Paris, ensuring a good preparation, a good participation, and then also the success of this refugee Olympic team in Paris. Through her, we reaffirmed our commitment and called on all partners to embed sport in national and local refugee responses. It is my sincere hope that we will heed this call and ensuring that the transformative power of sport reaches every person forced to flee their homes. In this spirit, looking ahead to the next Global Refugee Forum, I invite you all to carry this message of hope together forward to even more refugees and to even more partners in such a coalition to support displaced persons all over the world. And I invite you to join our efforts together to make the world a better place through sport. And I thank you for your engagement. And again, I thank you, Filippo, for all what you have done for refugees, for sport, and for humanity.
I thank the honorary president of the International Olympic Committee, Thomas Bach. Thank you, Thomas, for your very wise and kind words as well. And I call to the podium in representation of Faith Leadership, Professor Jaya Krishna Kumar, who is a board member of the Dharma Alliance. You have the floor.
Namaste. Excellencies, High Commissioner Mr. Grandi, distinguished colleagues, and dear friends. It's a profound honor to address this plenary on behalf of Dharma Alliance. We do so with humility and gratitude, recognizing that this is the first time an alliance rooted in some of the world's most ancient living traditions, together representing more than 2 billion people, has been invited to speak in this forum. We thank the UNHCR for recognizing that refugee protection requires not only sound policies, but also moral grounding drawn from the world's civilizational wisdom. Dharma offers a lens that moves beyond the majority-minority binary, which often underlies forced displacement, and instead focuses on the principles that govern conflict and coexistence. We warmly acknowledge the UNHCR Multi-Religious Council as an ongoing initiative reflecting UNHCR's commitment to sustained engagement with faith and belief actors. Dharma Alliance is honored to contribute through the inclusion of one of our members on the council and sees this as an opportunity service of displaced communities. Dharma Alliance is a global non-sectarian platform bringing together voices from dharmic and indigenous traditions to offer ethical perspectives on contemporary challenges. Our work is rooted not in theology, but in civilizational ethics, principles of responsibility, coexistence, human dignity, and interdependence that have guided Buddhist, Hindu, Jain, and Sikh are among the world's oldest continuously lived ethical systems. Alongside them, indigenous worldviews emphasize relation. Together, these traditions remind us that displacement is not only a legal or humanitarian issue, it is a moral test of societies. Dharma refers to an enduring moral order and way of life grounded in duties and shared universal values. Here are some key values that are especially relevant for today's theme. Oneness of existence and interconnectedness. That is, the well-being of one is inseparable from the well-being of all. Compassion, karuna, and generosity, dana, caring and sharing, particularly emphasized in Buddhist and Hindu traditions. Hospitality, atithi devo bhava, the guest is God, teaches us to welcome those who seek refuge by not only giving food or shelter, but also showing them ways to rebuild their lives with dignity. Service, selfless service, that is Kainkaryam in Vaishnavism and Seva in Sikhism, is integral to the way of being. The world is one family, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, reminds us that when one member of a family suffers, others are called to respond. Thus, caring for those in need is foundational in dharmic traditions. Dharma also emphasizes responsibility. Refugees are moral agents called to respect the laws of host societies, live peacefully, and contribute positively to communal life, strengthening the interdependent social fabric. Dharma also applies to societies of origin. Displacement cannot only be addressed at its end point. Societies and leaders have a duty to ensure dignity, inclusion, and shared progress so that people are not forced to flee. States and policies, however essential, can only go so far. Faith networks, civil society, educators, and local leaders form the moral and social fabric that makes peaceful coexistence possible. Initiatives such as the UNHCR Multi-Religious Council embody this understanding. To conclude, Dharma Alliance offers three reflections. First, it's important to rebalance rights with duties, reflecting our mutual interdependence. Second, whole of society engagement is indispensable. Third, one should draw upon civilizational ethics, dharmic, indigenous, and others that articulate universal principles of shared humanity and interdependence beyond belief or doctrine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Krishna Kumar, for your important intervention. Now we'll turn to a very important development partners. Development partners have been so crucial in this process. And I'm very happy to give the floor to Felipe Muñoz, who is the chief of the migration unit at the Inter-American Development Bank and a great friend of UNHCR. Felipe, you have the word.
Thank you very much to UNHCR, to the High Commissioner, and the co-hosts and co-conveners for the organization of the GRF Progress Review. I would like to start by recognizing the extraordinary convening power of UNHCR. Throughout the event, the convening power has been on full display, bringing together delegations from around 70 countries alongside academia, UN agencies, the private sector, multilateral development banks, civil society, sport organizations, but what is most important, refugee-led organization and refugees at the center of the event. Having participated in several global refugee forums over the years, we can see how the context is changing. The number of forcibly displaced people continue to rise. The number of returnees is growing. Official development assistance is diminished, and human mobility is reshaping labor markets and social protection systems, becoming a structural part of development in host countries. In this context, multilateral development banks as development actors are already supporting host countries and working with partners such as UNHCR, among others, to advance in sustainable and durable responses. In that regard, I would highlight three main contributions of the Inter-American Development Bank, especially critical in this new phase. First one, we will provide flexible funding throughout cross-cutting initiatives that address both immediate and long-term needs, including institutional strengthening. For example, the Board of Governors of the Inter-American Development Bank authorized the migration unit to use around 175 million in the last year to non-reimbursable resources from its grant facility to leverage investment loans in the countries of Latin America, but also we had invested resources from some generous donors. Second, we can generate and share knowledge on what works and what does not. From integration to financing and social cohesion, putting this lesson into practice is especially critical in a context of limited resources. The benefits for all the society of the refugee full integration need to be supported with evidence as an MDBs we call fill this gap in tandem with academia. And third, we can act in as a bridge and a facilitator by generating policy dialogues, bringing together government, donors, civil society, private sector, and international organizations, while increasingly ensuring that refugees themselves are included in the conversation. We are very well positioned with the governments to have high-level dialogues to include this topic of integration in the development national agendas and in our own financial operations. From the perspective of the IDB, but I am sure from the other development banks, the members of the MDB platforms, which the IDB has the honor to share this semester, I assume for the experience that we share in the last year, that we all together share a firmly commitment to maintain an strong focus on impact and to supporting countries as they navigate this new phase. Finally, I would like to acknowledge and thank you the leadership of the High Commissioner Grandi. His commitment has been critical in keeping displacement high on the global agenda and in fostering the kind of collective action that we can see throughout this GRF progress review, especially in Latin America and the Caribbean, where mixed displacement challenges are increasing and still need to be addressed. Let's move together to the 2027 GRF. Thank you. Gracias, Filippo.
Many thanks to Felipe Muñoz. One little point of order. We still have two such interventions, including a double act, plus we have the closing statement of the co-hosts and co-conveners, and then, if we may, the closing statements of the co-host and of myself, and we have only half an hour until we have interpretation. So if I can ask everybody to really try to be as tight as possible, it would be really appreciated. And then the next speaker is in representation of a very fundamental part of the whole of society approach, which is local government. And we will hear from Mr. Wilson Sanya, the mayor of Koboko in Uganda. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you, High Commissioner, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I would like to begin by introducing myself fully to give a background of what I'm about to give the reflection on. My name is Wilson Sanya, Mayor of Koboko Municipality. I am also one of the people who have lived experience of a refugee. I was a refugee in the Zaire, now DRC, refugee in the Sudan, now South Sudan. Today I come to Geneva to speak to you as a mayor of Koboko Municipality, a small municipality in Uganda that is hosting 25,000 self-settled refugees. And that is one of the challenges of my life where I have to make a decision between serving politics and serving humanity. And I want to be very clear here, it's been recorded that I decided to serve humanity as opposed to politics. And Koboko today is one of the most inclusive, integrated local governments you can think about in Uganda, probably even in Africa or in the world. But as I give my reflections, it's based on this background. Refugees are an opportunity. Refugees are an opportunity to themselves, also the host community. I am here as a lived example of that. Even when I come here, my background is good enough to inform you that I am an opportunity now influencing the policies, hosting refugees, trying to make sure that local governments think about inclusion and integration of refugees. And that for me is what's very important in my reflection. But as I go back now to give really my reflection of what I think to support the local governments in making sure that refugees have meaningful participation, refugees are on the table, just like the High Commissioner said, is that it's based on this. Yesterday, during the city coalition session, we launched a report delivering results, local and regional government advocacy, advancing for UN migration and refugee impact. Now, the evidence are very clear. Local pledges consistently strengthen whole of society and all of government approaches by bringing civil society, refugee-led organizations, communities in the decision-making process. Now, what do we want as mayors? And in this case, my reflection is going to be based on what we, the mayors, think. The mayors want to be actors as opposed to players. We want to be actors but not partners. Cities are not delivering arms of national or international policies. We are actors in the management of migration and displacement. Acting means being able to decide, plan, and invest for the long term. Allow me this time to especially thank these following donors who have helped us to make mayors active actors in the management of inclusion, especially in my city of Koboko municipality. I want to thank the European Union, the Mayors Migration Council, the SDC, VNG International for supporting us with the data, JICA, UNHCR, ACAV, UN Habitat and World Bank in this. I would also like to thank the city and regional networks and partner organizations for backing us up. In this case, I am thinking about UCLG and IGAD. The second thing that we want is direct funding for the mayors if we are to keep all these people on the table. I would like to specifically thank Cities Alliance through the Sustainable Urban Integration of Displaced and Affected Community Program for recognizing and placing mayors at the center of implementation with substantive grants combined with training and technical assistance to build municipal capacity. Local solutions only work when resources reach the local level directly. With the right technical support, cities can also strengthen community-based organization, refugee-led organization to make sure that the right people get the right solutions. This is how inclusion becomes operational, not theoretical. The third thing that we want is data. Data for us and data by us. Cities need reliable, disaggregated urban data on all residents, including self-reliant refugees. Data produced by cities for cities is essential for planning, accountability, advocacy, and investment. Without data, inclusion remains invisible. With the data, it becomes a policy. Number 4, we want cities to move from recipient to being active players. Cities have a responsibility to mobilize on-source revenue and also develop bankable investment projects. International funding should not replace local efforts. It should enable and accelerate it. And the closing call is this: cities are ready. We have shown that when cities are trusted, financed, empowered, they deliver for refugees, for host communities, for the national and global agenda. The next phase must be about scaling what works, deepen direct support to cities, and ensuring that local leaders remain at the heart of global displacement response. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor Sanya. And I'm very sorry to put a little pressure, but we have a time management issue here. Now we have a double act as the last intervention from this group representing civil society. We will have Rose Nyomo Daniel, who is the Vice President of the Network of Women with Disabilities of Nigeria, and Jamie Munn, who is the Executive Director and CEO of the International Council of Voluntary Agencies, otherwise known as ICVA. So you both have the floor. Thank you.
Dear United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, distinguished guests, partners, and esteemed colleagues, as we bring the Global Refugees Forum Progress Review 2025 to a close, we would like to take this moment to thank the High Commissioner, Filippo Grandi. My name is Rose Nyomo Daniel, the Vice President of the Network of Women with Disabilities, a network of over 100 women-led organizations of persons with disabilities, including refugee-led ones, with a head office in Abuja, Nigeria, and members from across African countries. On behalf of all the local civil society actors, NGOs, women-led organizations, persons with disabilities, and the refugees-led organizations, Mr. High Commissioner, for the unwavering dedication to advancing the cause of refugees worldwide over the last 10 years. Your shaping persons around the globe. Over the past 10 years, it is your commitment to collaboration, partnership, and solidarity that has brought us a dignified future to millions of stateless and forcibly displaced visitors. Displaced persons, including those with disabilities, especially women and girls. We wish to express our deepest appreciation to UNHCR for their numerous humanitarian interventions. Your work is truly making a difference in the lives of those who need it the most. As we conclude this forum, we feel inspired to take concrete steps to implement pledges made under the Global Compact on Refugees towards creating a brighter future for refugees around the world. We will reconvene in 2027, stronger and more united than ever, at the next Global Refugee Forum. Dear High Commissioner, dear Filippo, you have amplified the voices of refugees and people with disabilities, ensuring they are given opportunities to sit at the decision-making tables. As we say, Nothing for us without us. And we truly hope that UNHCR continues your legacy to hear and value our voices when shaping policies that affect our lives. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of forcibly displaced and stateless persons and forge a more inclusive and compassionate world. Thank you.
High Commissioner, Your Excellencies, colleagues and friends, I normally would not read out a speech, but in order to keep to time, I promise I will do so today. As we bring this progress review to a close, I want to offer a few reflections, not as a summary of what we've been speaking of for the last 3 days, but as a reminder of why this space and these partnerships matter. The Global Compact for Refugees was never meant to be a document that sits on a shelf. It was meant to be lived in policies, in partnerships, but most importantly, in the daily realities of refugees and host communities around this world. The discussions over the past 3 days have shown both how far we have come, but yet still how much further we have yet to go. From ICFA's perspective, representing nearly 200 NGOs, from refugee-led organizations, to women's-led national bodies, to national NGOs and international NGOs. One message has been consistent. Progress happens when partnerships are real, when power is shared, and when voices closest to displacement shape the decisions, not just inform them. That's why partnership between ICFA, our members, and UNHCR has been so important. It has allowed NGOs to move beyond consultation stage towards genuine dialogue and at times, constructive challenges. High Commissioner Filippo, much of this space did not appear by accident. It exists because leadership matters. Throughout your tenure, you have consistently elevated the voices of NGOs, including those organizations that are led by refugees, forcibly displaced, and stateless people, not as an add-on, but as an essential pillar of effective and principled refugee positions and purposes. You have understood that coordination, accountability, and solutions are stronger when civil society is trusted, when they are listened to, and when they are allowed to lead. You have also reminded us, often in some very difficult moments, that protection is not abstract, that solidarity is a choice, and that dignity must remain at the center of our work, even when the politics becomes harder and the resources more constrained. On behalf of our network, I want to thank you for your leadership as High Commissioner and for your partnership with us as an institution and us as individuals, for the openness and candor and the respect that you have shown NGOs, not just here in representation halls in Geneva, but as you have traveled the globe. You have reminded us that multilateralism works best when it's grounded in humanity, and you are a true representation of that. So, as a small token of appreciation, I would like to present you with a gift from our network. It's a symbol of shared journeys, of strong partnerships, and the many stories that we have yet to continue to write together. So it's great, thank you.
Thank you very much, Jamie and Rose, also for the gift, but for your important intervention. I am now pleased to give the floor, he will speak from the floor, to the Ambassador of Japan, Ambassador Atsuyuki Oike, who will deliver a statement on behalf of the co-hosts and the co-conveners of the 2023 Global Refugee Forum. Ambassador Atsuyuki, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Filippo. Distinguished delegates, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to offer closing reflections on behalf of the Global Refugee Forum 2023 co-hosts and co-conveners, Colombia, Japan, Jordan, France, Switzerland, Uganda, and UNHCR. The discussions held during the GRF progress review have reaffirmed that the international community has both the responsibility and the capacity to act, and that the Global Compact on Refugees remains our collective framework for delivering protection, easing pressure on host countries, expanding access to resettlement and complementarity pathways, enhancing refugee self-reliance, and supporting conditions for safe and dignified return to countries of origin. Over 3 days of plenary discussions, spotlight sessions, and multiple side and linked events across Geneva and beyond, we have collectively taken stock of the progress where pledges are advancing, but also where a course correction is urgently needed, including through honest reflection on implementation gaps, financing constraints, and uneven responsibility sharing. We examined the realities of economic inclusion, education, protection, climate action, data and evidence, development financing, whole of the society partnerships, and the region support platforms, as well as cross-cutting discussions on humanitarian development and peace nexus, return and reintegration, complementarity pathways, and the role of cities and local actors. We heard directly from host and donor countries, development actors, local authorities, refugee-led organizations, and the private sector, all of whom reiterated their commitment to sustaining and strengthening this shared endeavor, often under conditions of increasing pressure and limited resources. The discussions demonstrated that meaningful change is possible, and we were very pleased to see well over 300 people with lived experience of displacement who contributed as speakers, experts, and the strategic partners throughout the 3-day program and during 6-month preparatory process. Their participation underscored the central role of lived experience in shaping policy and practice. We heard concrete examples of national systems expanding to include refugees, of innovative financing mechanisms opening new pathways for development action, of renewed efforts to advance solutions, and of strengthened regional cooperation. We also welcome and commend the multiple actors and presented new pledges during the various pledging moments, including by states, civil society actors, and the private sector, and the refugees. At the same time, the deliberations made clear that deep challenges, including uneven, ever-growing resource gaps, are threatened to reverse the gains we have worked so hard to achieve. This GRF progress review has therefore been a sober but motivating reminder that ambition must be matched by action. As the GRF progress report draws to a close, we now shift firmly into preparations for the Global Refugee Forum 2027. The pledges made must translate into results. The insights generated over the past 3 days must guide renewed planning. Renewed planning, investment, and engagement. The past 3 days must guide renewed planning. Sorry, I got lost. I did it again on the sentence. The past 3 days must guide renewed planning, investment, and engagement. The past momentum built since the GRF 2023 must carry us forward with even greater ambition, purpose, and unity of effort, extending well beyond this room into the policies we shape, the partnerships we nurture, and the commitments we honor. Let us continue to uphold the promise of the Global Compact on Refugees with the same conviction exemplified by the High Commissioner. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, High Commissioner Filippo Grandi. At this Global Refugee Forum Progress Review meeting marks your final official meeting as High Commissioner. We wish to express our profound appreciation. Throughout your tenure, you have championed the Global Compact on Refugees with unwavering conviction, reminding the world that protection, dignity, and solidarity are not optional, but essential responsibilities of our shared humanity. You have been a powerful voice to the inspiring resilience of refugees and the unsparing hospitality of host countries. You have steered UNHCR with remarkable calm, clarity, and compassion through moments of global division, conflict, and financial crisis. And of course, your legacy is embedded into the evolution of the GRF process itself, helping shape a form of multilateralism that is practical, solution-oriented, and anchored in solidarity. Just as you championed the compact with determination and division, you can rest assured that we, as co-hosts and co-conveners, will continue to champion the GCR beyond our term. We also know that you will continue to be a tireless advocate for refugee self-reliance, resilience, and sustainable solutions, as you said earlier in the panel. Finally, we extend our sincere thanks to all delegations, partners, refugee representatives, and colleagues who have contributed their time, expertise, and commitment to this progress review. We wish you safe journeys onward, renew energy for the work ahead, and continue collaboration as we move together towards the Global Refugee Forum 2027. We all thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you, Atsuyuki, for this, for your statement. I want to, we are really running a bit late. I want to thank the interpreters for having agreed to stretch a bit their usual time, and I really personally appreciate that. I think we should give them an applause. But I promise we'll be as short as we can. We are really coming to the end. It's now my pleasure to ask my co-host, Mr. Vincenzo Mascioli, State Secretary for Migration of Switzerland, to make his concluding remark. Vous avez la parole.
High Commissioner, dear Filippo, Excellencies, 3 days of discussions that are action-oriented lead us now to conclude this second Global Refugee Forum Progress Review. It is with great pleasure that I speak before you today on behalf of Switzerland, co-host of this conference. In 2018, the Global Compact set 4 fundamental objectives aimed at transforming the way we respond to the needs of refugees, to the challenges, clearly, but also to the opportunities that their arrival means. Today, these objectives remain as relevant as ever. They have become more urgent in the face of the many crises and the growing number of displaced or stateless people around the world. The first goal of the Compact places host countries at the center Over the last few days, we've heard a variety of approaches offering concrete ways to strengthen their capacities. Let us continue this momentum. Let us share the solutions that work, the solutions that innovate and transform. For host countries to be able to offer dignified protection, we must strengthen our asylum systems. This is how we'll ensure the necessary capacities to support those who depend on them. And let us never forget that these people are at the very heart of our joint commitment. Another fundamental priority of the compact is promoting refugees' autonomy. Over the last few days, we have seen that there is a will to go further in integrating refugees into labor markets, social systems, and education systems. Integration is not just a support measure, it is the very foundation on which a person who's fled their country can rebuild their life, regain their dignity, and fully contribute to their host society. I am particularly pleased with the progress made in Switzerland in the field of integration. In Switzerland, we are convinced that integration should not be in the capital, but in the communes, the villages, the cantons, the regions, and that's why I'm so happy that a representative of a Swiss canton is part of our delegation. The field of integration is also linked to the participation of refugees. I'm delighted to note that the Swiss delegation, like many others here, includes refugees, and that Switzerland is committed to enabling more than 100 other refugees to take part. I therefore particularly welcome the contributions that refugees have made to the discussions at this conference, and I thank them for their commitment. Their participation is enriching, but it is also indispensable. The implementation of the third objective of the compact, dedicated to access to complementary pathways, takes us to the heart of an essential tool to reach the most vulnerable. Resettlement has long been a key pillar of this commitment. And yet, over the last few years, many states, including Switzerland, have had to temporarily suspend admissions due to the exceptional pressure on their asylum systems. I'm therefore delighted that Switzerland has been able to reactivate its resettlement program this year. Lastly, the compact commits us to creating conditions in the countries of origin that allow for safe, dignified, and sustainable returns. And yet, successful resettlement depends, above all, on the conditions in those countries. This is why a multidisciplinary approach and close cooperation between all actors, including civil society, remains absolutely vital in order to move forward. The challenges are great, promoting equal opportunities for women and girls, effectively coordinating humanitarian assistance, development cooperation, peace promotion, and migration policies, but also environmental protection and climate action. Ladies and gentlemen, as this year draws to a close, we find ourselves at a turning point. The success of this conference must not obscure the fact that the multilateral system has just gone through one of the most serious crises in its recent history. The last few months have clearly shown us that we can no longer continue as we did before. The role of international players must be rethought. This means strengthening the division of responsibilities within the United Nations. This requires measures that are ambitious as well as ambitious reforms, and these reforms need to be part of a more comprehensive approach, such as the one currently underway with UNHCR and the Humanitarian Reset. As a member state and host country, Switzerland supports these reform processes. At the same time, we must ensure that measures presented as short-term savings are not implemented without a comprehensive and cautious assessment of their impact. With International Geneva, we've created an ecosystem which, thanks to its density, contributes on a daily basis to the effectiveness of the entire multilateral system. We absolutely must avoid any fragmentation of the system, which would only further weaken multilateral cooperation. And there's another turning point that awaits us with the departure of High Commissioner Filippo Grandi. Dear Filippo, I too would like to thank you very warmly for your commitment, your empathy, your optimism, your spirit, your enthusiasm, and the list goes on. I think I can speak for everyone in this room when I say that we will miss you. We will miss you a lot. And I have to admit, personally, that it is very difficult to imagine that you will no longer be at the head of the UNHCR. Thank you so much, Filippo. And of course, congratulations to the High Commissioner proposed by the United Nations, Mr. Mohammed Salih of Iraq. Please rest assured that Switzerland will be at your side. The 75th anniversary of this convention, which is fast approaching, is an ideal opportunity to reinvigorate our efforts and assist those who are forced to flee their countries. Thank you very much, and see you in 2 years' time at the next Global Refugee Forum. And once again, thank you so much, Filippo.
To the podium to give my own final remarks. So we have come to the close. I promise also to the interpreters, whom I thank again. And I want to thank everybody for, once again, for these very intense 3 days. You know, this is now the 4th time we meet in the GRF, in the Global Refugee Forum format. 2 GRF, 2 progress review. So I think it's becoming really a solid, important, as was mentioned by many of the speakers, opportunity to really float ideas, discuss frankly on issues that are quite complicated. And this is, as I said at the first GRF in 2019, this is the most important refugee forum in the world. And I'm very, very proud that we are part of organizing it, and I want to thank all of you for these 3 powerful days. I want to just very, very informally, I'm not reading from a prepared speech, but I want to share a few reflections on the big themes that have gone across the discussions. 3 or 4 big themes. The first is really, and I'm very happy, I think it's the most important of all, it's, I heard, and my colleagues heard loud and clear, a commitment to the international protection of refugees. This is the most important. And a commitment to the institution and right to seek asylum. I cannot think of a more important aspect of the discussions, because conflicts and human rights violations continue to be the driver of displacement, the main drivers of displacement. I must say that I was quite shocked to hear one delegation here today say that the Rohingya refugees fled because of poverty and the pull factor of resettlement. they fled because of violence perpetrated against them by the military. And those are the refugees. Those are the people that need to have a space for international protection. And I felt that that space was reiterated here, and we must be very, very clear about that. I must say that it was important to hear this reiterated by states. This is very important. They're the main actors in international protection. But we know very well, many of you, and I thank those states that reiterated this commitment, but we know that the risks of erosion of refugee protection exist. So we do need very much everybody's smart support for refugee protection. We need it from the faith-based actors, as we heard. We need it from the civil society organizations. We need it from refugees, refugee-led organizations, former refugees, people with lived experience. From all angles, we have to build this advocacy, and I heard this here, and I thank you for that. Because if the 1951 Convention is a state instrument, the institution of asylum belongs to everybody. And it is up to all of us to defend and to protect it together. And I insist that this action of protection needs to be smart, cannot be simply statements and reiteration of principles that we all agree with. It has to be smart, taking into account the extreme complexities of today's forced displacement and population movements. And this has been very much discussed also in the debate on asylum. I think we should not be afraid of innovative tools in dealing with forced displacement, as long as we continue to defend the basic principles. I've said it many times, I've been asked by the journalists today, you know, the principles remain, the tools evolve. This is why we have the Global Compact on Refugees. Another big theme I want to spend a couple of minutes on is sustainability. This was a theme running across all discussions, not least because of the catastrophic financial situation that all the aid sector find itself in. So I think that we're all struggling, are all, well, striving, not struggling, we're all striving to find ways to have sustainable responses, medium, longer term responses to the crisis to the humanitarian crisis and the refugees displacement crisis that we have to face. And this, of course, this discussion here at the Progress Review was the continuation of the debate that has been going on for many years. And I want to thank the development actors. We heard from Filippo Munoz earlier about that. I want to thank the private sector that is increasingly playing an important role in sustainable responses. And like I said earlier at the side event on sustainable responses, it's really about national ownership of strategies to respond and international support to those same strategies. And this is, of course, not just at the national level. That's why it was so important to hear from the mayor, because a lot of this action has to be done at the local level. And this effort to have sustainable responses essentially founded on inclusion, these responses need to have refugees, refugee-led organizations at their center. I am very happy that the discourse on inclusion in services, inclusion in the economy of refugees, of displaced people, of returnees when they go back to their country, like in Syria today, that this theme of inclusion is becoming much more mainstream. If I have to think back to the 10 years during which I've been in this job and think of one main area of progress is the progress on inclusion. That is not to say that we have won the battle. We haven't yet. The way to go is very long, but that's where we have really made in this last 10 years enormous strides, in particular after 2018 and the establishment of the compact. And in that spirit, and in the spirit of the compact, I want to mention a couple of things. You know, this pledging system that was created by the compact, and which, you know, sometimes are these pledges really implemented? Well, maybe not all, but it is an effective system. And I want to flag again, as I flagged earlier in the Syria side event, the pledge by Syria. Syria made its first ever pledge here at this forum, and it was an amazing pledge. Read it, because it's all about the integration of returnees. And Germany made, in response to that, a pledge supporting all aspects of the Syria pledge. This is how it should be. I really want to thank Syria and Germany for having led the way, and many others have done that. I'm not suggesting, but that one, in my opinion, was particularly symbolic of the current situation, because it encapsulates the spirit of the Global Refugee Forum and of the Global Compact on Refugees in terms of, you know, this much mentioned approach, responsibility sharing, burden sharing. So please carry on. This is really should be the main focus going forward towards the 2027 third GRF. The third theme that I wanted to flag, and this is, in my opinion, one of the main challenges in our world of international cooperation going forward. We must be smarter and more effective in addressing fragility. Addressing fragility in every respect. You know, fragility caused by conflict, fragility caused by climate, fragility caused by poverty. I think it's very, very important, because in the end, if you analyze forced population movements, they're largely originated in fragile states. And I believe that to break those vicious cycles of population displacement and return, of drought and floods, of conflict and ceasefires, we have to break those cycles. Otherwise, we'll never get out of the current very deep crisis in which the aid sector is in. We really need to look more seriously at how to invest in responding to fragility. This is difficult because development, sorry, I'm not an expert, but I think I can say this after so many years, development is not designed to address fragility, is designed largely to address more stable situations. That is also important. But if we don't address fragility, we will have more and more countries and regions sliding into fragility and less opportunities for real development. And this is really very important. You know, I'm thinking, of course, of countries in conflict, like Sudan. This is perhaps the most difficult category of fragility countries. I'm thinking, however, of countries that have emerged for conflict, but not completely, like South Sudan, like Somalia, like Burundi. And I'm thinking of countries that are maybe more advanced in the way of stability, like Syria, for example. All of them, however, still have fragility element that requires investment, and that investment, among many other things, will anchor people and will give stability and reduce forced displacement. There are, of course, many other highlights that I could flag, but there's too many and we don't have time. I am told by my colleagues that have counted, there are at least 30 new pledges, including, like in the case of Syria, some new pledgers. I want to thank the private sector. We have heard from the Qatar Charity, from Building Better Futures, from the Grundfos Foundation, from the Cardano Foundations, and I'm sure I'm forgetting many others, very important and very large financial pledges. We're very happy about that. And like I said the other night at an event for our private sector partners, what I'm really pleased about is that it's not just the philanthropic aspect, it's the partnership with the private sector in many important areas that is growing and is becoming mainstream. Of course, the funding challenges have been a theme running throughout these discussions, and many of you, and unfortunately this was necessary, reminded us of the terrible impact that this incredibly abrupt but very, very deep funding cuts have created, the hardship that they have created around the world. Nobody should tell us that those funding cuts have not caused loss of lives. They have already caused loss of lives, and I hope that all those who can address this with resources will reflect into the new year how we can turn around and, with everybody's efforts, efficiency on one side, generosity on the other, really address this important situation. I have to say something, and I heard this over and over again, and I can reconfirm this on behalf of our organization. It's been a very difficult year, especially from the financial point of view. And we did take this brutal and direct hit. And that hit, make no mistakes, was also meant to weaken us. It was not politically innocent. It was meant to weaken us. But we will not be weakened. We will not be weakened. And this determination, I can tell you, is very strong in UNHCR, in my organization. But having heard carefully all of you for the past 3 days, I know that we're all together in this determination to stand up and continue to do our work, that it is not just a work delivering aid, it is a work about justice, about rights, about protection. And this is what we cannot weaken. We saw it for those of you who were last night at the Nansen ceremony. I am so happy that the Nansen committee decided to award, I said it last night already, so bear with me, but to give the global award to a community leader in Cameroon who convinced, underline convinced, his community to keep the door open for refugees coming from the Central African Republic when the Central African Republic was in the midst of a crisis. I think this is really an example to the world. And I will conclude with a few personal notes. I want, first of all, to thank all those, and there have been overwhelmingly many that have addressed to me personally some kind words. Thank you very much. Allow me to share these words with all my colleagues at UNHCR, with our partners, and all the refugees and displaced and stateless people we work with. They deserve those words more than me. And I want to also, go back a little bit beyond the 10 years of UNHCR, the 42 years of my humanitarian engagement, and single out in particular my time at UNRWA. I was very happy to host, yesterday we were very happy to host the Commissioner General of UNRWA, Filippo Lazzarini, who spoke very clearly and very strongly for this podium. So I want to use this opportunity, my last public speech as High Commissioner for Refugees, to also send our thoughts to our UNRWA colleagues, our thoughts to the families of the colleagues who have been killed in Gaza during the past years, together with thousands of other Palestinians, but also a word of encouragement that what they are doing, they've been my organization for 9 years, what they're doing is extremely valuable and need the support of all of you. Palestinian refugees are part of the global refugee community and refugee family, and I want here to really share a thought for them and share with you my hope for peace, for Gaza, for the West Bank, and for Israel. And let me also use this moment, these last few words, to remember all those among the refugees and displaced that have been most, like the Palestinians, most punished in a way by history. I have dedicated a good part of my career, not only to the Palestinians, but to the Afghan people, for example, or to the Kurds during the Gulf War, many other populations that history has marginalized. You know, it is also for these people, they and many others, the people that are left behind, that the UN was created. And for the sake of those people, the United Nations need to continue to be supported so that they have their dignified place among the world community and they don't become simply footnotes in history. Final words to a number of people very quickly. First of all, to the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. He's not here today, my brother and friend, Volker Türk, but you know that when he was the Assistant High Commissioner in UNHCR, he really had the vision of the Global Compact and steered the process that put it in place in 2018. So big thanks to Volker. I hope somebody will relay that to him. I thought it was very important to do this in this venue. I want, of course, once again, to thank our Swiss co-hosts and all the co-conveners. We heard from Ambassador Oike a very important and powerful statement for really making this, leading the preparation and the proceedings of the last few days. Many thanks to my UNHCR colleagues, to Nicholas Brass, who led the GRF team, who leads the GRF team, to Anne Kea and the governance team here on the podium. Big applause. And all colleagues from UNHCR, from other agencies, from permanent missions, from other organizations who really supported in ways big and small, including the interpreters, the technicians, the CICG staff. Big thanks to all of you from the bottom of my heart. And may I say many thanks to the volunteers that have done fantastic work in the last few days. And simply said, I started my humanitarian path road as a volunteer in 1984. And in less than 2 weeks, I will return to being one of them. And my message to the volunteers, but in fact, to all of you, whatever you do, whoever you are, don't underestimate the power that you have to change things for the better and to make life more hopeful for millions together. Thank you very much. I have to do one more thing. I declare the progress review of the Global Refugee Forum closed, and I wish you a good way to the 2027 Global Refugee Forum. Thank you.
you.